If a huge 4,000 plus piece Lego Disney castle sounds familiar to you, that's because it probably is. It was just last December when Lego took their first version of this set off of their website, only for it to be replaced here coming in July by this newer, bigger version of the same castle. Does this set justify its existence by being better? Well, let's take a closer look. Oh, whoops, wrong intro. Let's try that again. This set was sent to me early by the LEGO Group, but you can pick yours up starting on July 1st for VIPs, and it's going to retail here in the US for $400. Undoubtedly, a lot of comparisons are going to be drawn between this model and the one that was just available last year. I was surprised to find that the original Disney castle was actually introduced in 2016, meaning that that thing sat on LEGO's website for what? 8 years? And I think people don't actually realize how old that set actually was. A lot has changed at LEGO in the last 8 years, and I think this model here does a great job of using all those changes to its benefit. There's a few differences worth pointing out right away. The 2016 model had 4,080 pieces. The new version has 4,837. That's a significant amount more. The first version was $350 compared to this being $400, and those extra pieces do make this castle larger. The first version was 29 inches high, this one is 31.5. The 2016 model was nearly 19 inches wide, but this one is 23 inches wide. And the other most obvious change here, and perhaps my favorite change of all, is the color palette. The new version makes use of a rather unusual combination: sand blue and light nougat. Light nougat is actually perfect for capturing that subtle pink of the castle walls. And as a lover of weird parts, it's so great to see it here along with all of its recolors. One of the highlights being 57 masonry bricks in the color. That's pretty fantastic. I have to imagine too we're seeing a bunch of sand blue recolors here too, including sand blue masonry bricks and a bunch of other great elements. The colors of this are just so much better than the gray and the tans of that first iteration of the castle. But of course, 8 years ago, LEGO was not printing out anything besides heads in light flesh, and Sand Blue 2 had a rather limited palette to work with. There's also a lot more gilding going on here, so many pearl gold pieces. For instance, if I pull up the parts count here, we have 179 1x1 pearl gold plates, and 157 1x2 pearl gold plates. Alright, before we talk about the castle, let's take a quick look at the minifigures. For the Disney fan, this is probably going to be the most exciting lineup of minifigures ever. Finally getting Cinderella for the first time, which is kind of funny considering this is Cinderella's castle, that she didn't come with the first set. Specialized hairpiece, dual molded arms, printed dress piece with sparkles all over. It's great stuff. And all of the minifigures in this set are actually just really, really well done. They're CMF level. CMF level to the extent that, well, we'll get there, Prince Charming is also included in this set. The character design in general is just more simple, but that doesn't mean he's an inferior character or any less well designed. He's got printing on the pants, which is really fun, and I actually really like the more simplified looks of these characters. It captures, of course, what you saw in the classic animations. We get Snow White here, who I think is one of the best minifigures in the lineup. The best of the very best, I must say. Dual molded arms with printing. We've got the little cape piece for her neck. The hairpiece for Snow White was originally introduced from the mini dolls with the Disney Princess Friends line. Much like Prince Charming, Florian is a pretty simple minifigure, but still great. Dual molded printed legs, can't complain about that. And he's got a dark red cape. It is that stiffer fabric, not the nice soft flexy stuff, just so you know. And then we get to Tiana. Tiana is the most interesting situation of the minifigures here because I'm pretty sure she is identical to her CMF version released with the Disney 100 line. And I was up at the Mall of America the other day and I decided to pick one up, and yeah, they're virtually identical. The only difference that I could spot is that the sand green printing on the torso of the Tiana that came with the castle is slightly darker than the CMF one. That's probably not intentional, that's just like the printer was running out of ink or something. So you can view that as a good thing or a bad thing, like boo, it's not an exclusive minifigure, but I would encourage you to think of it as like, wow, you don't have to buy a $400 castle to get a $5 minifigure. And that's a good thing, I think. You got lots of good stuff going on here, like Prince Naveen. So I actually watched The Princess and the Frog for probably the first time since it came out, while I was building this thing. And I think they've captured his likeness pretty well. I love his alternate face especially. Interestingly enough, he's the only minifigure that doesn't have any sort of printed or dual molded pants. But looking at his character design, you can probably see that just makes the most sense. Then we have Rapunzel. Rapunzel also makes use of her mini doll hair, which I think is perfectly fine. Another great minifigure design here. It's great to have so many wonderful dresses to choose from here, and they're all printed everywhere, which is awesome. No complaints here. And then we have Flynn Rider, who's the most detailed of the male minifigures for sure. And that's probably just by nature of the 3D animated movie he was a part of. And for an accessory, he does have a classic Indiana Jones satchel, which is pretty sweet. But yes, a great lineup of minifigures, no matter how you look at it. These are going to be incredibly desirable, no doubt about it. So with those out of the way, let's get back to looking at the castle. So we talked about the colors, we talked about how it is definitely bigger for sure, but there are a lot of similarities too. I mean, for instance, the layout is very similar and the dollhouse style configuration. If we spin this thing all the way around, you'll see all the various interiors, and a lot of this should remind you of that first iteration of the castle. On the ground floor, we have the big open dance hall, and there actually is one of those nice splat gears that you can spin. You can get some characters dancing in the middle, which is nice. There's murals of the 4 princesses on the wall too, which are shiny stickered elements. They're kind of nice. And all around the build are all sorts of Disney Easter eggs. Thankfully for someone like me who is not a huge Disney nerd, the instructions kindly point out each and every one of these Easter eggs. And speaking of instructions, there are 3 very thick booklets. In the front of the first one are some details on the design team. That's the graphic designers and the set designer himself. And I absolutely love it when this kind of stuff is in the front of booklets, especially for expensive models like this. I feel that is an absolute necessity. That brings so much value and fun to the initial part of the building experience, and I love reading up about those things. It's worth noting too that there are very few stickers in this set. Much like the original version, this introduces a bunch of new prints, including these 1x3 tiles for window slits, a very similar version of the 1x6x5 wall panel introduced with the first version of the castle, but this time done, of course, in light flesh. That is printed. There's also a printed 2x2 tile right beneath it. Anyway, back to the interior. There's a lot of Beauty and the Beast references. Now, I'm not a Disney guy, but I loved, and I still love Beauty and the Beast. And to get all this Beauty and the Beast stuff and to not get Belle and the Beast as minifigures hurts my soul a little bit. One day it's gonna happen. But anyway, there's a bunch of references there. Moving up a floor is just a hodgepodge of a little bit of everything going on here. And again, I encourage you to reference that instruction page to figure out where all these are from, if you don't know already. And up above that, we have a bed, which is very similar to the first iteration of the Model 2. It's a very nice design, making use of a lot of pieces that have come into existence since 2016. And then up the much more narrow tower, you continue to see all sorts of wonderful Disney Easter eggs. But yeah, beyond the splat gears, this thing doesn't do anything. There's no like play features or anything. I mean, you can disassemble it slightly to make carrying it around much easier, because it is very tall. It's a little scary to carry around, though it is plenty sturdy, I assure you. But yeah, that's really all there is to it. It's just meant to be a beautiful homage to fans of Disney for their 100th anniversary. I'm gonna say something very controversial here. There are 2 $400 castles now going to be on the market. We have the 90th anniversary Lion Knights castle, and we have this, the 100th anniversary Disney castle. And this is a far more beautiful castle than the Lion Knights castle. I think if you disagree with that, you are crazy and blinded by nostalgia. I hate modern Disney. I hate everything about it. They make stupid crap. But this is a beautiful castle. Okay, modern Lego sometimes makes stupid crap too, but less so than Disney. I think we can agree on that. But this thing, the colors, the gilding, the shaping, just the composition of it all is beautiful. But I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that this somehow is a better set than the 90th anniversary castle. There's a lot more heart in that one than this. There's something about this that feels very rigid, very empty, almost soulless in some way. There's just not an element of life. It doesn't feel lived in, even with these characters here. It's just a display piece, where I feel like that Lion Knights castle is a playset. You know, it's something that, yes, looks fine on display, but it's ultimately meant to be enjoyed. Whereas this, not so much. Obviously you can. I'm not saying you can't, but it doesn't invite me in nearly as much as the other model does. So take that for what it's worth. It's amazing that we have 2 such beautiful castles available at the same time. And you know, if your money tree finally prints out that $400 bill for you, you might as well pick up either one of these and you'll be happy. And in regards to price, I mean, for a very much licensed set to have almost 5,000 pieces and go for only $400 today, I'm gonna shut up there, you know? That's all right. That's pretty good. It really is easy to build. And I guess from that side of things, it wasn't all that interesting of a build to me. But it is amazing to look at. I can't stress that enough. It's probably better looking than any other castle Lego has ever made. If you want a beautiful castle, I just encourage you to make your own. I don't know if you need this thing. Hardcore Disney fans, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it, I'm sure. I mean, look at the minifigures, the accuracy, the colors, the Easter eggs. Hats off to the model designer who did a great job of faithfully recreating this castle. Not, you know, reinventing the wheel. He took, you know, what worked with that original version and made it bigger, better, and more beautiful. But honestly, the thing that excites me most about this set is tearing it apart and using it as a really, really sweet parts pack for my own castles. That, for me, is the value of this set. I think it's worth the price of admission for the parts alone. I'm curious to hear what you think of this model. First of all, are you a Disney fan, and are you buying it as a Disney fan, or are you a Lego Castle fan and you want to buy it as a Lego Castle fan? Well, time to start parting this out. Have yourself a great life, and I'll see you later.